And we are live. Welcome, welcome, everyone. I am your illustrious host, Omiika 7, and you have the room, or I can say this is the production studio, Omi's production studio. I was getting ready to say Oracle Dimulation Network. Thank you so very much for joining me today. And as you have read on the advertisement, that we are going to be talking about IFA today. We are in rare form. We are being true to our own. We're dealing with the paranormal. I am your host, Omiinka 7, and I'm bringing this show to you live in my newly decorated studio. So this is a little different. It's a little smaller space, but this is my production studio where I do my work and where I intend to do most of the work. So take a look around. There's a lot of educational stuff here, and I'll let you take a look around so you can see some of the things that our history class used to talk about. And as you can see, there's a real world uh, map there. And up above is my literary bookshelf. So it might not be able to show you everything, but you can see some of the stuff up there. I put those little dials there to help me out. They're my worker bees who work in the publishing house to help get the book ready. So, and some of the featured books that I've read, as you can see. Okay, and that is the studio. Just take a little tour around the studio. You can see that I'm just getting set up in this room. We brought it from the living room and the kitchen. You've seen me all over the house now, but we're now in the studio. Brand new wallpaper there that we're sporting. And you can see that the studio is coming along pretty well. Okay, all right. So much for that little tour. I'd like to get right in on the subject. How's that? Okay, that's better. Okay, very good. We're back. How's everybody doing this evening? I hope you're doing well this morning. Excuse me. Some places it might be evening, some places it might be noon. But thank you so much for joining me today. This particular topic is being true to our own. We are dealing with the paranormal. And I did talk to you before about the 16 Odus. I'm just going to review those real quick for those of you who might have forgotten them. Edgy Aga, Edgy Abi, Akure Meji, Aurori Meji, Ode Meji, Orusum Meji, Auroran Meji, Abare Meji, Akunre Meji, Agunde Meji, Asa Meji, Aka Meji, Atun Rupon Meji, Atura Meji, Arete Meji, Ase Meji, and Ohun Meji. And remember last time we met, we talked a little bit about Osun, the giver of all of them. And we just elaborated a little bit on that particular topic. Now, what I'd like to do is say that these are the readings, the 16 readings of the Odu, the principal 16 categories of the Odu. Now, today I'll be talking to you about Ishe, Ishun, or the poems of the literary corpus. And when a Babalaw or a priestess or a Yalande does a reading, they refer to something called the poems of Ifa literary corpus. Those poems can be written in two types. They can be written in a short form or long form. The short form is no more than 4 standards, and the long form can be a maximum of 8. So when these poems are interpreted, they are interpreted to fit the person's situation, and then they're selected so that when the reading is given, they might hear when the reading is marked, and then they go to that particular Odu. That Odu will exemplify which particular poem reference more to the the practitioners, and usually they call them a practitioner when they come in to get a reading, and they look at which one of those stories is more suited for that particular practitioner. Now, these are poems that most of your Babalaws and most of your Iwas and devotees, they can actually memorize these poems, and they can refer to these poems so that these poems are committed to memory. Now, Omi has not committed these poems to memory yet. I have so many of my own that I've been writing. However, when I first started writing my poetry, I went into meditation. And this was coming from my right side of the brain, where literally I was writing about things that was in my psychic, but not things I necessarily had gone through. And I wrote quite a bit about the comedic scene, because that's what I was studying at the time. Now, let's get back onto these principles of the 16 Odus. As I told you, there are 400 plus 1 on the right-hand side, meaning there could always be room for one more positive. Then there are 200 and plus 1 on the left-hand side. And that means there's always room for one more. What I'd like to read to you is an African poem here, and it's called The Black Family Pledge. Because we have forgotten our ancestors, our children no longer give us honor. Because we have lost the part of our ancestors cleared, kneeling, and in perilous undergirding, our children cannot hear us crying. Because we have obtained abandoned wisdom of mothering and fathering, our befundled children give birth to children they neither want nor know. Because we have forgotten how to love the adversity in within our gates and hold up to the mirror of the world, shouting, regard the loneliest. Therefore, we pledge to bind ourselves to each other and to embrace one lowliest, to keep company with our loneliest, to educate our illiterate, to feed our starving, to clothe our ragged, to do all good things, knowing that we are more than keepers of our brothers and sisters. We are our brothers and sisters' problem. In honor of those who toil and implant God with golden tongues, and gratitude to the same God who brought us out of hopeless desolation, we make this pledge, and we pledge this today to be about our ancestors' business. It is up to the living to stay in touch with the dead. And so many people don't want any part to do with the dead. And when I minister to those who have had loss in their family and loved ones who made their transition, I always tell them they're closer now to their ancestors than they were when they were living. Now you can know them in the spirit. And to know them, spirit is perpetuating, it's eternal. Whereas the natural is temporal, so they can know that person in the spirit. So if that is comforting to them, to know that they can learn to get to know their loved ones better now by erecting an altar to their loved ones and making sure that they spend plenty of time talking to them in the spirit. Now, our topic today is the literary poetry. So why do we need this poetry, and what is it used for? This poetry is used for someone who might be in trouble, who might have been in torment, and continues to be in torment and need relief. So they go to someone called a babalaw or a priestess or a priest to do an oracle divination reading for them. And that's what this room is all about, explaining to you the reason and the purpose for having oracle readings and why are oracle readings so necessary. One would say that every morning that you get up, you would actually cast a lot, and do you would do an Odu, you would do a reading to find out what does the Odu say you need to do for that day, or what directions is it giving you, and that direction would give you a reason to be on a path, because every day we must be on a path about our destiny. And sometimes we fall off the path and we are not going towards the destiny that we had asked for, because each one of us has a destiny, and each one of us kneeled at Oromala's feet and whispered our destiny, and we are supposed to be about our destiny. So oracles help us to get back on the path and stay on the path towards our destiny. So oracles will let us know if we have gone out in left field or right field, or if we're right down the middle or not. And if it's a favorable reading, that means that we're on our path and we haven't deviated too far. But if we are so far off to the left, then that reading could be beneficial by getting us back into the middle road, so to speak, because most people want to understand that they're on the path. Now, let me say this. Ogun, one of our Orishas, the father of I guess you would say, of metal, of iron, and you would see a lot of iron on a railroad track. So when you walk over a railroad track, think of Ogun, one of our great Orishas, one of the Orishas that represent the brother of Shango. He's the older brother of Shango. I won't get into a lot about Ogun today, but he came to my memory for some reason, and I just had to mention him, that he can show up on our heads as well. You ought to have a reading for your head reading to find out who your mother is and who your father is. I had my head reading done and discovered that Obatala was on my head for my father, and Yamenye was on my head for my mother. And both of them have their own entity backgrounds. Obatala is the father of all the Orishas. He's a man in white. And Yamenye is the big-breasted woman who's a nurturer over all the oceans and rivers. And you could find out who yours is as well through a reading. And a reading, primarily, I'm going to show you what a reading looks like when they draw the markings and when the markings are drawn, so you can understand what is going on when you see the markings, okay? These are some of the markings that you would see. Okay, I don't know if you can see those up there. I'm going to try to put them as close as I can. And some of those names that I mentioned earlier, Ejibi, Iwori, Ofun. Okay, let's see who these are. Ode, Iwori, Iyakun, Aji, Orukun, Okunrun, Abare, Orusun, Ose, Akunde, Ikare, Ofun. Okay, Irete. Now, as you see these are the markings that you would see a Babalaw make, but the Babalaw will make double. See how they are doubled? Now, on one side, they would have the straight line and then another one on the other side. So it's important to know that every one of these markings has to be doubled. Now, one of the things that is an honor and that is inhabited is the praises, the worshiper. The worshiper has to make sure he eats of his Odu. When his Odu is written, he eats of it. Now, this is an example of the Panre tray. where you would have the tray marking Orori, Oriakun, Ajibi, and Ode. These are the directional spots where the Panwe tray would be written, and I'll show you a picture of that. This is the actual tray itself. Can you see that? And it has the mystic, Ile Ife, okay? And north, Ode Meji is north. West is Akure Meji, that's west. And then east is Abaji Meji. And then south is Aurori Meji. And I mentioned these to you today, but these are the cardinal directional signs of the Odus. And this is what would be done on the Apan tray. The Opan Ifa as a symbol of the divine and material reality. Okay? The divine and material reality, you are going to see Aurora, and it has its unknown over there. And then the spiritual, Ile Ife. And then you'd have the great road, Owe, Owa, Orum, Oda Arum, Agbi Lead Gabu. And then here is the One Bone. Now you have of life, the great road, and then you have of life. And then there is a great remittent. And this is how the reading would be done, would be out on an opan tray. Okay. Now this will show the full opan tray. This is the opan tray. As you can see, it has the arrows drawn, and it is Aju Opan, a place of the Opan. And it's marking right here. And then you have the one who implements with the left, okay? Then over here, the one who proposes with the right on that side. Then you have Ona, Okunre is a straight path. The center is here. It has the crown. And then you have the one who has diviners, Okunre, and is happy. Then the early riser who sits down and prospers. Then you have Ishu, the Pan Ishu, foot of the tray, right down here. Okay, can you see that? Now I know a lot of this you're not going to remember, but when you see it again, it'll make sense to you. When someone does a reading for you, you can actually say the Opan tray. Now here is a diagram drawn as to how you would sit on your carpet or your sheet, where you would be sitting here right in front of the Ipan tray. And these are your tools that you'll be working with when doing your reading. All these things might not be taught to you, but just so you'll know what they are, okay? And you'll be able to lay out the direction. Like right here is the mat for the reading. You have to have a mat out, okay? Now, we're going to get into the breakdown. And this is the breakdown of the mat and the various different things on the mat for you to see. It might not carry any weight, but here's where you can see the mat a little bit clearer, and you see the devotee ready to do the prayer. And he's got right out front of him, he's got the I Ching change, which he's going to do a reading for himself. And then he probably has this sword there that might represent maybe Shango. And then before him is the Ipan tray, and then some type of emblem here. And he's doing a prayer. And that prayer goes, in English, he would have it interpreted in English as well as in, it says, we have seen Odu. We have good fortune. We have seen Odu. We have good fortune. We have certainly seen Odu. We shall not die. We shall see Odu. We have found good fortune. Okay? That's what that prayer is all about. Now, here you see another patron that's sitting here getting ready to do a reading for himself. You see the 18 chains on the left side, and then he has a pot right in front of him and a candle, and one of the pots here that he probably is on his head or something, and a glass of water. And he's talking to Orikun. Ifalo, Ifalo oni, Ifalo aga, Ifalo oyukunla, Ipelu oromala, Nialo, Mifa, Iba okoda, Iba ase, Iba aseda, Iba ase, Ilo Joni, Iba o. And a lot of this, you have to understand that this language is sung in high and lows. And I am a novice at learning the language, so I don't profess to know the language, but I'm learning the language. And it goes on to say, Arisha towa latte, Arisha ata lashe, Arisha ata lashe olorum, Arisha ata lashe orum. And basically this is a prayer. And they have morning prayers and the evening prayers. And the prayer says, Spirit come from the Spirit come from the beginning of this world. Spirit that comes from that east. Spirit that comes from the west. Spirit that comes from the north. Spirit that comes from the south. Spirit that comes from the celestial world. Spirit that comes from the planet Earth. Spirit that comes from the holy city, IFA. Spirit that comes from the ocean. Spirit that comes from the river. I praise you. I praise you. I praise you. Homage comes to pass. Homage comes to pass. Homage comes to pass. Homage to the 400 spirits on the right side, Lord of the light. Homage to the 200 spirits on the left side, Lord of the light. I praise you, I praise you, I praise you. Homage comes to pass. Homage comes to pass. Homage comes to pass. The holy diviner, Agabi. I praise you, I praise you, I praise you. Homage comes to pass. Homage comes to pass. Homage comes to pass. Diviner on the highly on the right side, I praise thee. Diviner on the left side, I praise thee. Diviner on the east side, I praise you. Diviner on the west side, I praise you. Diviner on the north side, I praise you. Diviner on the south side, I praise you. Juba. Okay. Now, then it goes into the another prayer and praises. Iba alowo, Iba ajabaga, Iba akoda, Iba aseda, Iba ebe, te olode, iba baba, iba ye baba. I adore you, I adore you, iba akoda, iba aseda. And that is to say, inspire me, my diviner of the sacred forest. Inspire me, my assistants. Inspire me, Akoda. Inspire me, Aseda. Inspire me, Abare. And reside at mystical Ifa. Inspire me, my father, inspire me, my mother, inspire me, my ancestors, and all for whom I have not named. I invoke you also, and please don't forget me. And a variation is Iba Aloha, Iba Ajabana, Iba Ifa, Abare, Mibi, Alode, Ifa, Owa, Alowoni, Atashe, Aluna, and it goes on to say Ajuba, Agobo. So these are prayers that the initiate would be praying and using, okay? Now, a lot of this is done right before the reading, and it is a process, trust me. And it goes on. And if the diviner is a Amboye, he says, Nija evalo mowo, Nija evalo kumba atashe, Nija evalu jobona atashe, Nija evalo boko legba, Nija evalo boho, Nija Eva Lo Lisa, Nija Eva Lo, let's see, Reviso, Nija Eva Lo Miwa, Nija Eva Lo To Tashe, Nija Eva Lo No Tashe, Nija Eva Lo To Bodum Tashe, Nija Eva Lo Boom Atashe, Nija Eva Ye Yeba, attache, attache, attache. This is to say, that is that I may speak. Thank you, Moa, that I may speak. Thank to you, Master Diviner, that I may speak. Thanks to you, Assistant, that I may speak. Thanks to the Diviner, Legba, that I may speak. Thanks to the Diviner, Twins, that I may speak. Thanks to the creating spirit, that I may speak. Thanks to the thunder deity, that I may speak. Thanks to the Mewa, thanks to that I may speak. Thanks to the Father, that I may speak. Thanks to the Mother, that I may speak. Thanks to all of the ancestors, that I may speak. Thanks to all of you. Let it be so, let it be so, let it be so, let it be so. Now, all these prayers are done by the devotee. So there's a lot of praying going on. Don't let anyone fool you that this is not a handshake religion where you come in and you get the magic. You have to work very hard so you can be included in the sessions where they talk about the magic. And if you are not a good devotee, then you won't have access to all of these things. Now, I want you to hold for 1 second, and I'll be right back. I have something to get. How do you? No. No. All right, and we're back, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you so much for having me in your living room, inviting me in your den, in your bedroom. We are Oracle Divination Network on at least one time a week, sometimes 5 days a week. And we do want you to subscribe to our Blog Talk channel. If you'll go out and subscribe and be a subscriber and a follower, here on this particular show on YouTube, you can be a subscriber down below. If you'll go ahead and click on that subscribe button, and we'll be featured on YouTube on a weekly basis. And right now we have not decided on which particular day, but you can check that bell down below, and that bell will let you know when I am on the air. And our feature show is in a category for family and self-help, spirituality, and dealing with things that pertain to the family. So we do have a niche, ladies and gentlemen. We're not just all over the place, but sometimes it's necessary for us to come on the air to talk about triggering news that happens that are pertaining to the Black African American or the indigenous Aborigines in our community. We have to come out and speak on the topic at least. So we do deviate from time to time, but it's because of the fact that the urgency of the topic. But nevertheless, we are a paranormal show and we focus in on paranormal issues. So you will see us talk about mind, soul, body, and spirit. And we will talk about clairvoyant things like we're talking about now, spirituality. This is not about religion. This is a way of life, and we're talking about metaphysical things. And for those of you who are at a higher level of frequency, we all vibrate at a level. Some of us a little bit lower than others, but for those of you who are vibrating, oh my goodness. For those of you who are vibrating on a higher frequency, I want you to know that I am a seer, I'm a clairvoyant manifester who has been a seer from the time I was a young girl, could actually have dreams about people and see into the lives of my loved ones and not someone who I was not familiar with, but loved ones. And each of you have that capability. God is no respecter of person or man. What he's done for me, he'll do for you. So you have that same manifestation ability and clairvoyant ability to see into the lives of your loved one. And that's why I told you to practice doing your own readings and throwing of the OB, getting your yes or no answers, and also practice reading energy so you can read the aura and you won't have to have a mediumtist. You can do it through practice, and being around a person will help you to learn their aura. So as you learn their aura, you will be able to read them just like a book. And these poems that I'm telling you about, you have to get girded up. And all this prayer that I just prepared for you and told you about, you don't have to speak the language, but you certainly have to go down in prayer. And right now we're going to take a session to show you how to pray, because I am a prayer warrior. I came from an evangelist background as a minister, as one who's also one of the members of the founder of a traditional Christian church. So I know the formalities and I know the procedure, and prayer is something that is inhabited through Olodumare. He inhabited our praises. We're not just running around here working magic, giving people readings. We are prayer warriors, because without the prayer, our third eye is not going to be open. With the prayer, our chakras can line up on one accord. with our indigo being here and our third eye being open so we can see. Even if we became blind overnight, we would have the visualization to see into the lives of those loved ones that we know. Now, I didn't say everyone. It takes a bit of practicing to get to the point where you can begin to see in the lives of others. Some people are dreamers. Some of us have dreams and they manifest themselves, and we can manifest things if we're looking for objects that are lost. We know how to manifest them through our caustic record. If we are in need of funds, we don't just run out and rob somebody. We go to the fish's mouth because we know that the funds are there, because there's nothing hid in the spirit realm. Everything, even though it's in the dark, for those who are spiritual, it can be revealed. So that is the benefit of practicing this way of life. It will give you the ability to be able to manifest anything that might be hidden. But remember, in the spirit world, the spirit comes to bring to your remembrance. It comes to awaken you. So nothing is lost in the spirit. So I'm going to teach you how to get into the spirit. And a lot of you see me when I'm closing my eyes and talking, I'm getting into the spirit, because the spirit is reminding me of all things. Nothing is ever forgotten when it comes to the spirit. It brings to your remembrance anything that may be lost or may be out of sight. And you say, where is that book? And I need that book in the spirit. Then you stop and get still. And the spirit begins to speak and minister to you and talk to you. All these things are necessary before a reading is done. Any Babalaw or priestess that's going to do a reading, they oftentimes do a prayer. That is to allow the spirit to flow through them, to help them in initiating the reading so that it is favorable for the practitioner who's looking for answers. As we come before you this evening, Oludulamare, we know that Akamare is the God of all of the universe. And as we look at the breakdown of the triune God, Olodumare, Olorun, Elede, we know that there is only but one monotheistic God, and that these gods that have become lesser gods are only those that have the ability to be clothed in matter, and that they too are combustible fire, and that they too will burn one up. But because they've been clothed in fire, they've been clothed in matter like Ori, we can embrace Ori. Let us embrace Oladulamare, who's also clothed in matter, who is here to assist us. Oladulamare, we acknowledge you today. We give you our highest praise. We acknowledge you from the east and from the west and the north and the south. We ask that you would allow us to give you praise and honor today. We call upon the mother of our head, Yamenye, and bless Yamenye. We call upon the Father of my head, Obatala. Obatala, we give you praises today. We honor you. And we call upon the Almighty Oromala, who was there to sculpture us, who we kneel down and prayed to, who we went into contract with. We call upon Oromala, who knows, who can alter the time of death. We call upon you, O Romala, and we ask that you would be present here as we go into our oracle readings, as we go into casting OB, as we go into laying down the formats for the Odu poetry, the literary poetry corpus. Show us the right way to find the right answer and solution to our readings. Show us show us how to have a favorable reading, and we will give you all the honor and praise. And we just magnify all of the loved ones who are in the middle path on their way to us now, as they come to connect to our higher self, as they come to connect to the melanin. May we tap into their melanin today, and may we create the greatest circle. And we thank you for the reading that you're about to give. Amen. Now, in this manner, you want to give prayer. before you even embark upon doing a reading. But you must have tools. And there are many places you can go to purchase the tools. Like I told you about the Epons tray. You're going to have an Epons tray, and you're going to have the Epons powder that goes on the tray. So when you make your markings are easily made. And upon your morning prayer, after doing your reading, it's very necessary that you take a bit of the old Pond's cornmeal and put it on your head and eat of it so that you internalize that message, so that message is within you. This is what a good devotee would do. You might be having a Babalaw or priestess do the reading because you might be a novice at first or a Ewal. Then when you get more proficient and learn how to do it, remember to eat of your message. You first eat of your own message so you can internalize it. It's very important that you should know that this is nothing to be played with. Some people think that they can play games with this and they can practice being a witch and doing wicked things. You're not Genie, and you're not the wicked witch of the West or the East, and you're not bewitched. So please don't play with these tools and these gifts as if you are mocking God, because God will surely allow everything that you send out. Karma will come back to you. This is nothing to play with. Your heart must be right. Your heart must be fixed. That is why you saw me pray, because the prayer of the righteous ones will availeth much. Those who are not righteous, the prayers will not prevail. They will go unnoticed and unheard. Just like you've heard me mention, for those men who have done bitter and wicked things to their wives or their significant others, they don't need to bother to pray, because their prayers will not be heard. They will not be heard from the Most High. You must know that we believe in a monotheistic God. We are not praying to many gods, only Olodumare, who we are praying to. When you hear me say Ilede, Olarum, these are the assistants, okay? These are the essence. Akamare is a God of the universe. He has no affairs with us. He is the one that created the universe and the firmament and us. He didn't create us. Olarum did. He actually gave us the breath of life. Now, Akamare is a God that we're going to interface with because he's combustible, or it is combustible fire, but God has managed to clothe Olodumare so we can interact with Olodumare, okay? But you must know this is nothing to play with. Don't start doing readings to do wicked things to people, and don't start looking for spells that you can put on people. Don't start telling people you have this gift, because gifts comes with repentance. And if you misutilize these gifts, you will be called on this. And I'm warning someone right now who wants to use this talent and this gift that I'm giving you to do something demonic. But those who practice demonic things cannot be a part of an establishment like IFA. It is a grand, old, traditional, one of the oldest traditional ways of life. Now, as I told you, there was Icon that the Cubans practice, and there's also the practice of Santeria of the Spanish. And you must understand that there is voodoo, and voodoo is something that's used to take spells off. It is not an actual practice, but is a practice that you go to get help to remove something. Now, a lot of people have done a lot of foolish things, and they put spells on people. They burn red candles to try to control people and control their love life and making sure they stay in love with them. That is no way to keep a man or a woman, by burning candles to control them. So a lot of people have done this kind of thing, and some people are sitting now wondering, why are they beholden to another person? Maybe they have a spell on them. Maybe they need to go to a hoodooist to remove that spell. How can you tell? Sometimes there's ways you can tell, but the hoodoo person can tell you how to remove any spells off your money, because your money may be stacked, the deck may be stacked against you, where someone's intercepting your money. There's ways that through actually cleansing and smudging your money with the sage that will cleanse any hold off your money that somebody may have. And by putting your money on a table, preferably your altar, and putting a white candle on it and burning that white candle to purify that money so that it's not being rerouted to somebody else or somebody's controlling you. Whenever you see somebody constantly burning candles all the time and acting as a novice, like, they're not into the practice of praying or reading, then you ask them, what are you burning those candles for? Are you aware of the fact that candles have energy and you can change the frequency of the room and you can invite other aliens or other primordial forces into the room? You have to educate them and say, no, we don't want to burn a red candle. It's very powerful. You don't know what you're doing when you're burning a red candle, when you're trying to invoke something. And even with incense, you have to be very careful. Now, there are ways to cleanse through various different baths that only someone who's skillful, who understands about using the bath salts and cleansing the body, because a lot of us need cleansing because we have spells on us, and some of us are walking around in a trance and are not themselves and are being conducted by somebody else. And if you feel that way, then you should definitely go see a hoodooist and ask them, who's put a spell on me, or what is happening? Am I vexed? And is there a spell on our family? How do you take the curse off? So a hoodoo is not like somebody that is practicing voodoo. Voodoo is a practice just like IFA is. It is a traditional way of life. It is a lifestyle. As I told you, the devotee gets up in the morning, he washes his face, his elbows and hands, and then he does a prayer, okay? Praying for a favorable reading, and then he prays that the reading comes out favorable, and the reading comes as a path, giving him a direction for his life to be in God's Oladulamare's plan, because man, should not lean on his own understanding, but to lean on Olodumare, and Olodumare will direct the path. As you hear me say Olodumare, I've given a name to God. We are all God worshipers, and we are not polytheistic, worshiping many gods. When you hear me say Olodumare, it's just like saying Jesus to you, but Jesus is a representation of Olomala. Okay, these are African deities and African gods, whereas before we were worshiping Christianity and they were Roman gods. They weren't our gods. That's why they could not hear our prayers, because we were talking to the wrong people. Now, when you are doing your prayers, you must understand there's a prayer in the morning, and then you might want to pray again at night. So they're different prayers, but to the same God. As I told you, we are monotheistic people, one God. We do not practice many gods. Now, when you hear me talk about those principles of the 16 Odus, those principles of the 16 Odus is talking about the Orishas. And like I said, it's 400 plus 1 on the right-hand side and 200 plus 1 on the left hand. There are 256 Odus that we work with, and that's a lot. But by and large, you may see me wear the Ileke beads of 7 of them. And then I may have the house beads. Now, I want to tell you that you should establish your own house with your family, because you want to introduce your family to this. So when you get ready to have prayer, you might want to have a prayer chain, and you teach everyone to pray, because a corporate prayer is very valuable and is very functional. And there is a calendar that the Yoruba practice have where everyone prays on the same day. Isn't that powerful? A corporate prayer where you're all praying on the same day. You can start your family out with this by saying, we're all going to pray on a Monday. And then you teach your family how to pray. You introduce them to the deities such as Oladulamare, being the Godhead, and Akamare is the God over the universe. He's the one that's concerned with the earth down here. but he cannot come back because he's giving you dominion. But he's the one that established the fowls and the birds and the humankind and the lakes and the firmament. He's the one that has no affair with you because he said, I've left it to you. I've done my job. I'm out of here. Now I just go to the inner courts of heaven. Then you have Ori. That's the God that he's assigned you. And that Ori is part of God that he allowed the energy to leave him, and he wrapped it in matter. So Ori can sit here in your being, in your head. So when you start working, God will never leave you. God is still with you. God allowed a part of himself to be with you. And then you must understand that you have the Elede, and these are people that are combustible fire. And these are not a triune, it's a triune effect of God. However, you must understand that you are speaking to Ola Dulamare to assist you, and Ori to work with you and co-operate, co-create together. And you and Ori work together. And that's the God that will never leave you. So when people start talking to you in the Christian faith, well, God can never leave you, he's always with you, they're not talking about the right thing, because that's a spook God that is in 150 different places. We're talking about the God where God lent his Ashe to Ori to come to you as himself. Now, this thing about Jesus and God being one, God would be a schizophrenic, and Oromala is himself. He is not God. Okay, he's God's right-hand man. And this thing about God having a son, that's foolishness. God could not have had a son without a wife or a woman. Okay, Jesus could not just be had. And that's why we knew they were on the wrong path when they kept trying to give you a Jesus who was born without any mother. God couldn't have had Jesus. So how was he born? Then he says he gave you Jesus because Mary brought him into being. Okay, so he came from heaven. So if he came from heaven, so why was Mary having him if he came from heaven? That doesn't make any sense. He said, this is my only begotten son who I'm well pleased. How is he only begotten if Mary had him? He can't be only begotten and came through the womb of Mary too. Which one is it going to be? See, we're creating schizophrenic behaviors, and that's why we are so all out the box when it comes to spirituality. People have taken this stuff literally, and it's affected them in their spirit. And I'm telling you not to be affected by this in your spirit, because we were going down the wrong path. I'm hoping that I'm getting some of you back on the path of your own. So start your own house. Open up your own house. Put a name up on it. You can call it whatever you want. But every Sunday, call your family members and do a prayer chain where you all are praying together in unison and praying without ceasing. And your murmuring and groanings, you are praying for things that you don't know. The Holy Spirit makes intercession for you for those things you don't know what to pray about. And you say, in your moans and groanings, okay? When your first assignment is to talk to your family and say, we're going to start praying. A prayer chain can be so powerful. Maybe you're praying for one thing. Maybe you're praying for a corporate thing. Maybe you're praying for something individual, but you start your prayer chain so that you begin to have your house. And then you switch up from house to house where you start physically going to each other's homes and preparing small desserts and sideline dishes where you come together and you break bread together. Now, you might even want to buy an Odu book. That Odu book will actually give you all of the poetry, okay? And you can study that poetry. That will become your Bible. Now, you can also be Orisha practitioners where you read upon all the Orishas and their character and nature and what they like to eat and what they like to do. And then you you do a reading for everyone to find out which is their mother's on your mother's head and their father's head, and then they set up a pot to those mother and father, and they begin to do Orisha communing or Orisha worshiping, where Orishas are like angels, like Michelangelo. These are the African angels that we are looking at, the deities that exemplify Oladulamare. They are not gods, but they are exemplification of Oladulamare, his essence. So now you are taking care of his essence through practicing feeding them, giving them a plate of food, bringing them gifts, because you want these angels to do for you. Okay? And the riches, you can begin to read upon all the riches and get more familiar with them and have a discussion of riches, but mainly your prayers in order and you're reading from the Odu book. Now, you definitely don't want to make a mistake and think that you can incorporate the Bible into this, because the Bible has no place within this. This is African traditional religion, and they didn't have a book. God cannot be contained in a book. So the Odus are just to get you familiar with the poetry, so when you learn how to do the readings. So there's no other book required. Now, the Hosea is something that we used to read from. It's one of the oldest books, and we read from the Hosea to get a lot of practices, but it's not a Bible. You don't have a path, because your way of life comes from your Cosmic records, and your readings will give you a way of life. It will be like a manual for you. Instead of having a Bible, you would have the actual readings that you do on a daily basis that will give you direction for your life. Do you understand that? I hope we all got that clear, because we don't want to say, well, now what about the Bible? My mama say I should read the Bible every day. Now, if you are coming out of this prison where you have been tied to something, you don't want to bring those old tools with you. So leave the Bible back there, way back there. And you don't have to even fear that as your manual, because now you're going to be hearing from the Spirit, and the Spirit is going to give you a path and a way to walk on a daily basis through you reading. Now, if you want to get in the Spirit, you can ask God something and let the Spirit speak to you. And that's another way to get an answer from God. Some of you may not be that skilled to know how to hear God's voice, but it's usually your first voice that you hear. And don't be distracted from it, and don't ignore it, because that's usually God speaking to you, your first voice. Now that you've decided to have your own house, congratulations. You are going to have your own ELE, your ELE IFE in your home. And that is something I'm telling you to do, because I once started a church in my home, but it wasn't a correct church. It was a Christian church. I know that it was my foundation, and I had a lot to learn from it, and I did. And I can't X out my foundation. It was a path that I was on, a school that I was on, and I had to go through that school in order to get to the traditional African faith. And now that I'm in the traditional African faith, I know better. I know that God cannot be contained in any book. I know that there is no devil. I know that you don't have to attend a work and order building church. I know that you can have an Ile Ife in your home. So all of you can have, calling the church, we call it an Ile Ife. We are African, Indigenous, Aborigines, Afro-Indigenous Aborigines, some of us Creoles, and we know that this is the way they had church, we think. Guess what? The Creoles went outside into the forest, the thick forest, 3 times a day to find God. That's right. They knew that God was in the elements, and he was a universal person, and he was out in Mother Nature. So they went into the woods to find God and to meditate on the word. God found the way to reach them there, and God was there daily waiting for them to hear their requests and to grant them their wishes. So they went there 3 times a day. I know about that because I once seen one of my family members who said they were not going to church and they went into the forest. And I kept saying, why is he going into the forest? And he came out with solutions to how to solve illnesses. He came out with tinctures and salves that he used to heal people. So I know that the healings are in the forest. So now that you've got your ESE and your families are answering your phone call and you guys are praying on a weekly basis, and now you decided you want to meet up and you want to talk about these things and face to face, you can. You can give your ESE a name and you can begin to start getting ready to do your oracle reading. But you must have practice. You must practice these things as you do your own readings or have a Babalaw do them. You might even want to invite a Babalaw in that will do the readings for you until you get proficient. And you must understand that you are getting proficient and your family members, they are not worried about paying tithes anywhere because nobody's collecting any money. You literally are coming together so that you can start to believe in yourself and let God speak to you. Now, we're going to be doing a part 2 of this. I'm going to say that I want you to be a part of part 2 where we start talking about the readings. This has been a foundation for you so you can get an understanding as to how to set up your ESE and how to look at the poems, the Ishun or poems of the literary corpus. We're going to get into that and get deeper into it for those of you who are going to try to understand what are these odus? What do they mean? How do they relate to my life? And how can they? With them having 256 odus, one of them has to meet your situation. And if you were smart, you would begin to realize that once you get a reading, there is a sacrifice. It is a sacrifice for someone to give you a reading. So you have to prepare that sacrifice and be ready to buy whatever necessary tools you have to buy in order to give the sacrifice. And that's a thank you for giving you a solution to your problem. So you can ask the old evil to let up off you for a little while. Now, we're going to go and do a commercial and we'll come back in a second. All right.